Hello my friends, this is Subsuke with another tutorial on the Analog 4, and this time it's about creating kind of a noisy and somehow brassy and very popular lead sound, which sounds like this. Okay, now let's dive in and let's create this thing. First, let's load a completely new kit right here, or let's say clear this kit so that everything is completely safe. And we are at the default settings, which sound like this. Yeah, pretty standard. So first things first, what I'm doing now is I'm increasing the volume of the track itself, and I'm also increasing the volume of the patch, and this is just to prepare that I have as few noise on the output when I'm recording this as possible. So, okay. Now to create this lead sound we need, we need two oscillators, and it's very important to have the right, the correct filter envelope for this thing. But let's start off with the oscillators. I'm choosing the transistor pulse waveform on both oscillators for that purpose, and I'm turning the second oscillator on. And without anything else, how does it sound? Yeah, very unspectacular, right? So there are several things we can do now. We could work on the oscillators and have them, make them a bit more cheesy, but I think we should start on the envelope for the filter itself. So first things I do is I select, I guess this envelope. This is a synced envelope, so it makes sure that the envelope is actually re-triggered every time a note is hit. This is important. And now that we have this, let's start by modifying the envelope itself. Bring the release up a little bit, sustain down, and slight attack. I guess around 30 is cool. And slight decay. Yeah, I think that's already it. Now on the filter itself, I decided to use the first filter this time, because this lead sound is actually not it's not so punchy. It does not have such a steep filter curve to it. So I choose this one. I bring the resonance down and also the cutoff down, the frequency. But instead I'm actually increasing the depth of the envelope, and let's see how it sounds now. Yeah, that sounds better. Also make sure that the resonance of the second filter is down and the frequency as well. Okay, now that we have this, we can start to work on the envelope a lot further. So let's bring this one down a little bit. Also the sustain a little bit and the release slightly up. It doesn't sound so different, I guess, but slightly. Okay, now the next thing is for later when I actually programmed the sequence that is in here. I have it already programmed. I make sure that the note length is not too long, because otherwise when we raise up the frequency of the filter, we would have almost infinite notes, and those would probably overlap, and this wouldn't be so cool. So for this purpose, let's make sure that the note length is down. Okay, now the melody itself is playing an octave lower, so I'm also switching this mini keyboard an octave lower. Let's have a listen. Okay, now this is kind of a sound that we already could use, but we could try something else. First thing we could do, we could go to the second oscillator, and on its second page we could try to work on oscillator sync. And have a listen to this thing right now. If I turn on the sync and let oscillator 2 synchronize with oscillator 1, go to oscillator 1 and bring its tuning an octave lower. Let's have a listen how this sounds now. You see, it has much more power to it, but it also lost. It has also lost a little bit of its higher frequencies. But I think it's not so problematic for this purpose, because we will actually start to bring in the reverb now. But first, let me play the sequence that I have, and let's have a listen to this sequence with the actual sound setting. Yeah, it's basically this one. Working on the envelope to bring in a bit more of the sound itself. Much better, I think. And now let's bring the reverb in. First, let's check how the reverb is set up. So I bring the decay up so that it's much longer, and also bring the pre-delay up a little bit. Yeah, and now is the thing. For the high-pass filter, do we want to have low frequencies in that reverb tail, or do we don't want them? I think we should remove a little bit of those so that it's not so intense. Let's have a listen. You see, the reverb is really everything on this thing. That's definitely everything. Now, I dial it back a little bit, and also, yeah, let's remove a little bit of the decay. It was probably a bit too much, but I think it's cool already. And let's check on the EQ of that thing. Should we do something here? Let's try that out. Let's bring the Q up and the frequency up as well, and let's have a listen. Doesn't sound too bad. Okay, let's move back to the sound itself. And there is another thing, a quite important thing that is still missing in this one, and that's the actual noise on top of it. Now, we find the noise under oscillator 1, sorry, and we have a noise that is that has quite a high frequency to it. So it's rather a white noise instead of a pink noise or something like that. So let's bring the color of that noise up to about there, and let's raise the level. Also, let's have a look at the envelope and see if we could do something more. For example, bring the sustain a little bit down so that the sound is not so, just drops out a little bit. And let's check that one and this one as well. Going to the filters, and let's have a listen. That's pretty close to what we want, right? Now we could start to let's actually try to work on the frequency here, and let's have a listen. I think it could be a little less aggressive in the lowest filter frequency setting. So let's keep. I think the sustain must go down a little bit, and the decay must go down a little bit further. I think let's try that out. Yeah, that's okay. And now to give it a final touch, let's add the chorus to it. So So first without the chorus. And let's bring the chorus in now. Yeah, I think that's cool. Okay, here you have it. Just a basic lead sound using some noise and the transistor pulse wave. Yeah, what else could we do? We could start to detune those things. We could try a detune of plus 15 on the first and minus 15 on the second oscillator. Let's have a listen if that sounds cool. You could barely hear it. And to give it even more punch, in the first time I've tried this thing out, I've tried to bring in the overdrive, but sadly when we do this, we will lose the noise on top of it. Take a listen. It's actually yeah, it removes the noise, and I think the noise has to be in this lead sound. Okay, so work on the envelope a little bit, bring it just a little bit down, and try this. Try the attack and the decay. Put release down, and let's see what it sounds like. Yeah, sounds cool, I think. Okay, I hope it helped you and you like it. And if so, leave me some comments. And if you don't want to miss future tutorials to come, hit that subscribe button. See you next time around. Bye.